Fargo has grown by over 10,000 people in the last 4 years, and it's projected to grow by another 35% by the year 2045. But here's the thing, with so many people coming to Fargo, there's also a ton of people leaving Fargo. In today's video, I'm breaking down the 5 reasons why people are leaving Fargo and moving elsewhere, and why Fargo is not the right place for them. If you haven't been to the channel before, I'm Zach Skora. I'm a realtor here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Make videos to give people information on the good things, the bad things, the easy things, the hard things about living in Fargo, houses available. And if you're curious about what buying or selling a home looks like here in the Fargo-Moorhead area, you can find all my contact information in the description below. But I'm gonna jump right into this one so people can find out what are the 5 reasons people are leaving Fargo, North Dakota every single year. So jumping to the first one, which is probably one of the most obvious things people will think about when people leave Fargo, is the climate. So obviously Fargo is very, very cold during the winter, with over 40 days of the year being below freezing, and can accumulate over 48 to 52 inches of snowfall every single winter. With a place like this, combining the fact that we have snow and cold with the fact that it's a flat landscape and there's a lot of wind and the wind chills can get absolutely freezing, is a huge reason why a lot of people will move away, or they'll choose to move somewhere else or stay somewhere else for the winter. There'll be a lot of people that'll go down to Florida, Arizona, California for the winter just because of how bad and brutal it is. And with this too, obviously, all that blowing snow with a lot of wind. And one thing that people really don't think about when they think of the climate here is you also got to think about the wind in the summer. So you can get windburn, or you can get really dust in your eyes from all the wind blowing. So it's very windy here. There's a lot of snow obviously in the winter. Winters can be very cold. So that's one of the big things that gets people to move away, is that maybe they're getting older, or they're just done dealing with the winter if they did grow up here, so they move to other places across the country. So that's obviously the one big reason, but kind of the main thing I think people think about when they think about people moving away from Fargo, or maybe the biggest thing people complain about when they think about Fargo, is that cold and the climate. But it's not the only thing that caused people to move away. The next one's another big one, which is the limited big city amenities that Fargo has. So obviously Fargo is the biggest city here in the state of North Dakota, but when you compare it to like Minneapolis, Denver, Chicago, it doesn't have the big city amenities like those other places do, like maybe professional sports teams, huge concert venues. Hector International Airport can go to 10 to 12 destinations, but depending on where you're going, may use or need a connecting flight. So things like that. Fargo is big, but it's not super big. But again, this is another thing that's all relative to people. Like me, for example, grew up in a small town in North Dakota, Fargo feels big to me. But someone who grew up in New York City, Fargo feels absolutely tiny to them. So it's all relative, but that's one thing that will cause people to move away, is the fact that Fargo does not have those quote unquote big city amenities like some other cities have, like Chicago, Denver, New York, those sort of places that have professional sports teams, things going on all the time, that sort of thing. So it's just something to keep in mind. And again, that's something that's all relative, but one of the reasons people do move away. All right, next up, we're jumping to number 3, but make sure you stay tuned until the end of this video for number 5, which is one of the biggest reasons people choose to move away from Fargo, North Dakota. So number 3, it's really flat here. There's not a ton of natural scenery to look at, not really any forests. It's all farmland, and it's really flat. So we are in the middle of the Red River Valley, which is one of the flattest regions in the whole entire North America. And people can reference this area as being extremely flat. Literally, you'll be able to look around Fargo and it's just flat. There's no mountains, there's no major lakes nearby until you get to the lakes country of Minnesota, which is about an hour and a half away. And there's limited forests and tree canopies around this area, especially in those newer neighborhoods and around those farmland areas, because a lot of those new neighborhoods in those new areas, those used to be farmland. So there's not a ton of trees down there, and not ones that have been there for 10, 20 years, like the historic ones will be up in North Fargo. But Fargo is very flat here, even when you compare it to other parts of the state of North Dakota, like Bismarck, for example, or all the way out to like Dickinson and Williston. Fargo is very, very flat, and the flattest city here in probably the state of North Dakota. So it's just something to keep in mind, and something a lot of people don't like, because they'll move away to different countries where, California coastline, the mountains, wherever, Appalachian Mountains, Rocky Mountains, that sort of thing. So Fargo is very flat, and that's one of the reasons people do sometimes move away from here, is they just want to change in scenery, or they want to be able to look at things or that sort of thing. And this is another reason, tying back to the first thing, that's why the wind's so strong, is because it's so flat here. There's no natural wind breaks like, tree lines or forests or mountains or that sort of thing. So it can make it seem extra windy, or it is more windy because it's so flat. So just something to keep in mind as we'll hop right to number 4, which is the growth and expansion of Fargo. So Fargo is one of the fastest growing cities here in the state of North Dakota, as I talked about in the intro of this video, and it's growing a ton. But for some people, it's growing too fast. They like the thought of, a small city vibe, having a big yard, knowing all your neighbors. That's something that in some areas of Fargo right now, you're not going to find that anymore. And Fargo is growing more and more to where it's turning into bigger metro like some of these other bigger cities. Even though it's not quite to like the Minneapolis, Chicago level yet, it's right in the middle there, and it's not really a small town like maybe it once was 20, 30 years ago. So with this growth, this is something that's causing people to be like, well, I don't really like living in Fargo anymore. It's too hectic, it's too crazy, there's too much crime, that sort of thing. So that's causing people to move away. And it's just something to consider. Again, if you already live here, you've probably seen the difference in maybe the 10 or 20 years you've lived here. If you're moving here, it's not going to be the same as it once was. Maybe if you went to college here, or if your parents lived here, or that sort of thing. So it's just something to consider. And with this is going to come like higher housing prices, more traffic, larger schools, but there's going to be a lot of school options, more construction, all this sort of thing. So it's just things to consider. And it's also depending on your goals too. Because obviously there's way more amenities here in Fargo than there is in small town North Dakota. But also the houses in Fargo are going to be more expensive to contribute to all those amenities. So it's just something to keep in mind. And again, that's something that's all relative too. If you're moving from New York City to Fargo, North Dakota, it's going to seem like a small town compared to if you're moving from like Hazen, North Dakota to Fargo, North Dakota. It's going to seem like Fargo's huge. So it's all relative, but that's one of the reasons I think some people are moving away is because they grew up in Fargo when it was, a little bit smaller, a little bit less hectic. Now it's getting more hectic and bigger every single year, going to grow by 35% by 2045. So they're choosing to move somewhere else a little bit quieter and somewhere where they can get a little bit more bang for their buck as far as housing goes. But again, it's all relative and you all got to consider what your goals are with your move if that's something you're considering. Next, and the last thing I'm going to talk about, which is something that's sometimes overlooked when people think about this Fargo-Moorhead area, is seasonal allergies. Fargo's in the top 50 cities in the whole entire country that are the worst for seasonal allergies. Now, of course, Fargo has 4 distinct seasons of summer, winter, spring, and fall. So allergies come with that, like ragweed, grass pollen, cottonwood, mold spores. These type of things can increase people's allergies. So you may have, the stuffy nose, in the winter, that sort of thing. And the open farm fields contribute to this with dust and wind that blows everything around. So a lot of people have seasonal allergies here. And of course, spring with high pollen, again, that wind blows it around. And obviously spring and fall are those high pollen months where that wind is going to blow around that pollen all over the place. The wind playing a huge factor. And as you saw, wind was mentioned in like 3 of these items in this video. So that's a huge thing that people do not consider when they're moving to Fargo, North Dakota because of the fact that it's so flat. So I hope you found this video helpful. If there's something you thought I missed about a reason people are moving away from Fargo, North Dakota, leave that down in the comments below and let me know what your thoughts are. And let me know how long you've lived in Fargo and what have been the big changes you've seen. But I appreciate you watching this video. And if you have any more questions about the real estate market or your thoughts on this video, you can reach me through all my contact information down below. Thanks for watching.